Hey, and good afternoon. Glad you're along. Well, we've talked about it all day. You've heard Eric Bushman and Clayton Neville talking about it in WBAP News. The Federal Reserve today raised the benchmark interest rate by 75 basis points, and this is the first time in almost 30 years. Why? Well, they're trying to cool off this red-hot inflation, and a lot of people are worried, well, if that happens, the housing market's going to collapse. Well, it's going to go down. There's no doubt about that. But let's talk with somebody that deals with this every day. Mitch Kramer, founder and CEO of Fluent Financial. First of all, Mr. Kramer, thanks for being with me.
Glad to be back with you, Rick.
There's no doubt this is historic. It hasn't happened in the last 28 years. Is this enough, do you think, to at least cool down an inflation rate of 8.6%?
I think it's going to slow it down, but I think the Fed's not done yet raising rates, and there's a 100% chance they're going to raise rates 50 basis points in July and in September. The Fed's recognizing that this inflation fire has really burned out of control, and they've got to act very quickly to regain credibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Credibility has certainly been lost here. What about those? I mean, you know, I'm no economist. Steve Moore and I talk all the time. We've been friends for 20 years, but this has to be done just right. The timing has to be just right. The T's crossed, I's dotted, if you expect a soft landing, right?
Yes, and I kind of use the analogy. We're not landing, a plane at DFW or Love Field. We're landing a fighter jet on a carrier in a stormy hurricane. It's going to be a rough landing, but it's going to be short. So I think there's a high probability we probably will go into some kind of mild recession sometime this year, whether it's this quarter or next quarter, but it won't be long-lasting because banks, corporations, and consumers in general are in much better financial shape prior to other recessions.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because people ask me all the time, Rick, do you think we're headed for a recession? Well, having immersed myself in this every day, every week, every month, sometimes I think we're already in one. But I have said, yeah, I think we're headed for a recession. I don't think it's going to be a long, drawn-out recession where, lives are changed. But there's going to be a good amount of hurt here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a lot of free, easy money for way too many years, and a lot of businesses have grown up and blossomed using debt and cheap money. Well, the cheap money has been taken away. You're going to see some pruning of businesses. You probably will see some layoffs. But, right now we have 2 job openings for every person, is looking for a job. So this is kind of a healthy cycle that we're going through. It's not going to be like 08 or 09 or the dot-com recession of 2000 through 02.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct on that. As I look at this, and of course with prices at the pump and the supply chain issues, and what is this going to do? How's this going to affect, to the degree you can predict something like that, how's this going to affect the everyday American?
Well, what you're going to see happen, Rick, is that revolving debt is tied to the prime rate. And when the Fed raises rates, banks raise rates immediately on what they charge you. Unfortunately, they don't take the same philosophy in what they pay you in savings accounts and CDs. Yeah. So what that means is people that have revolving debt are going to be paying more for that. Mortgage rates have basically doubled in the last 6 months. Beginning of the year, it was about 3% to get a 30-year mortgage. Now it's 6%.
Well, that was going to be my next question. I've heard from a lot of people in the real estate market, well, the housing boom is over. I've watched that happen in several different states, the last one being in California, where everyone refinanced and bought toys, and then the bottom fell out. Where are we in the housing market right now? Where do you intend for us to go?
Well, I think the big demand is that housing in Texas, because we have low government regulation, no state income tax, a great job market, and relatively lower cost compared to the coast, we're still going to have a lot of people buying houses here. And a lot of people are paying cash for their houses.
Right.
So the mortgage rates are irrelevant. I think one thing that's really important to recognize that 1 out of 7 houses sold in 2021 was sold to some kind of institutional investor. And you have that person at the table now, and there's a development in Allen that's being built of individual single-family houses that's all going to be rental property. And you're going to see more of this happening around the country.
Wow. Not to revise history, but maybe to take a look back over our shoulder at how this all happened. As I say, I'm not an economist, but I've been around Steve long enough to know, 2 and 2 most of the time is 4. When you dump, and I mean that in the figurative sense, when you dump that much unearned cash into into any economy, let alone ours, shouldn't you expect inflation to go up? I mean, whether it was the stimulus checks, one right after the other, the enhanced unemployment, you just can't dump that much unearned cash into an economy and not expect inflation.
Absolutely, Rick. And Larry Summers, the former Treasury Secretary in the Obama administration, warned Biden and the Democrats, do not pass the American Recovery or American Rescue Plan. That was $1.9 trillion in March of last year. It's basically akin to throwing a bunch of gasoline on a raging fire. And now we have this big, out-of-control fire called inflation.
Well, hopefully the recession will be short-lived. Things will get back to normal, whatever normal is. I guess that's relative to the individual. To sort of wrap this, what can Americans look forward to, say, over the next year?
I think you're going to see prices start to abate, because then you're going to have year-over-year comparisons. And then the other issue, you have a lot of stores, I know Target and Walmart, a couple of 3 weeks ago got hit because they're seeing an inventory build. And for them to move inventory, they're going to have to cut prices. The tough part's going to be is you can't cut wages once you give someone a raise, and you may just have to lay people off. So there may be some more unemployment than we see now. And what also would recommend is if you don't have to buy a car or a major purchase item, put that off if you can and try to hang on to as much cash as you can.
Yeah, well, I think basically what you're saying is, you deal with the economic landscape you're in. If you don't need to buy something, set on that cash. I guess, and maybe I'm looking down the wrong road, but as the Fed looked at this, it seems to me until maybe a week ago, maybe not that long ago, they expected the central bank to come up with a 50 basis point rate hike. That in itself is double what it usually is. But then that labor department report came out, and that was lousy. That changed everything, didn't it?
It did. And the other part was there was about a 33% chance the rate hike today would have been 1 percentage point. So they really are concerned about getting this inflation under control. And I think the Fed has some egg on its face. And when Jerome Powell got reelected for another term, I think he felt like, okay, now I can really go to work and try to stop this inflation problem that we're dealing with. Right. But I think to the Fed's credit, yes, they're going to raise rates quickly, but we'll get through this quicker. It's kind of like tearing off a Band-Aid quickly versus slowly ripping it off. Right,
exactly. Or letting it wear off, and we've been there before.
Yes.
Mitch Kramer, founder and CEO of Fluent Financial. If somebody wants to get more information, maybe pick your brain a little bit, how do they go about doing that?
Sure. You can go to our website, which is www.fluentfinancial.com, or you can reach out to us at 972-852-4800.
Listen, Mr. Kramer, I've enjoyed talking with you. Hopefully we can talk again soon about better times being closer than further away. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rick.